Chances are you've seen the campaign ads this year, and you could probably say the mudslinging is definitely evident.
Oh yes, and if this year's campaign feels nastier than some previous ones, there's a good reason you think that. UNM political science professor Gabe Sanchez here says there have been more attack ads and mailers this year, and he says the big reason is simple. It's money. So far, the Susana Martinez and Gary King campaigns for governor have combined spent about $7 million in the race in the last year. Mr. Sanchez says these attack ads are aimed at voters who are still on the fence.
Aiming at that undecided voter, those are folks that aren't necessarily paying close attention to the substantive policy debate.
There is a drawback, though. All that negativity, Professor Sanchez says, can turn off voters and convince them maybe it's best just to stay home on Election Day. One of the Navajo Nation's presidential candidates is off the ballot this morning. The Navajo Nation Supreme Court disqualified Christopher Deschênes for refusing to demonstrate whether he is fluent in the Navajo language. Tribal leaders require presidential candidates on the reservation to be fluent in the language. Deschênes maintains that he can speak the language, but he refuses to take a fluency test. With Deschênes out of the race, the third-place finisher, Russell Gay, will face Joe Shirley Jr. in the November 4th presidential runoff.
A suspected armed robber in the South Valley goes before a judge on murder charges. The judge set Ruben Lucero's bond at $150,000 cash or surety yesterday. Deputies say Lucero and Chris Garza held up the Pajarito store using a shotgun and an assault rifle. They fired off the gun inside the store at surveillance cameras. Deputies say that the clerk turned the tables, shooting at the robbers as they fled in their getaway cars. Lucero was shot in the arm and crashed the car nearby. Garza died from a gunshot wound. Investigators say that the surviving suspect is charged with murder because his actions led to his friend's death. A thief with a taste for brass fittings is behind bars this morning. The problem here is that firefighters need those fittings. Joseph Ross is accused of stealing $34,000 worth of brass caps and access valves. You see, firefighters attach these valves to their hoses when fighting fires in big buildings. According to a criminal complaint, Ross has been seen taking a cap from a downtown building. Police learned Ross sold more than 400 pounds of brass at local recycling facilities. Deputy Chief Victor Padilla says the thief could have jeopardized people's lives.
That would affect the water supply that we would get to the upper levels of these high-rise stories, as well as the water volume and pressure that would be needed to safely and efficiently attack these fires.
It appears all the caps now have been replaced. Court records show that Ross has a long criminal history.
If you are driving near Montano High School in the next few weeks, expect some delays. Lomas between Wantabo and Loyola Place will be reduced to one lane both ways starting Monday. This is happening because the New Mexico Gas Company will be installing gas lines to help serve the Northeast Heights. The parking lot will only be open for voters on Election Day. Sidewalks south of Lomas will also be closed during the construction. Lanes should be back open on November 14th. And some traffic fixes are on the way for Albuquerque's biggest high school. Right now, there's only one way in and one way out of Atrisco Heritage. Parents tell us it takes half an hour to drop their kids off and another 30 minutes to go pick them up. APS will host a public meeting next week to show parents a new traffic plan, which includes extending turning lanes and adding fencing and warning lights. The meeting is next Tuesday night. It's at 6 in the school's Performing Arts Center. We've posted a link with the map of the upcoming changes. Go check it out at krqe.com.
More details on a story we first told you about yesterday. It's the tale of two universities, Oklahoma State and New Mexico State, dueling over one mascot. According to OSU, the older NMSU logo looks identical to Oklahoma State's Pistol Pete, and that, OSU says, is a problem. NMSU has since updated its mascot image, but Oklahoma State says it found out that NMSU was developing a classic Aggie collection that would use the old mascot the university first adopted back in the 60s. NMSU would not talk about the classic Aggie collection because of this pending litigation. 6:05 is now the time. When looking for New Mexico's mascot on Twitter, you may come across two very different accounts.
Yeah, I've seen this. We're talking about the Lobos here. There is the official family-friendly account. Then there is an imposter, Louis Lobo. You can see him here tweeting pictures from the pit, retweeting from the UNM Foundation. All looks legit. But when you look a little closer, you see tweets littered with obscenities. One refers to which is anatomy, while another disgraces a piñata. The university cannot do anything about this account because it clearly says right here that Louis Lobo is a humor account, and some students say, well, that should be obvious.
I think most students that use it probably take it as a joke and don't really take it as serious.
I feel like there's more parody on Twitter than information, actually.
Even though UNM created an official account for the mascot, its rival reaches more than 5,000 followers. The university says it'll be promoting the official Twitter account to cut down on any confusion. It says right there, it is a humor account.
Yeah, you got to look closely.
But that being
Look
said,
at the
there's
details.
Louis Lobo and Lobo Louie.
Good point.
Just
Good point.
just know what you're getting yourself into on that Twitter stuff.
Yeah.